When hardened criminals repeatedly evade justice, elite police units come together to crack these toughest cases.
Police officers!
My role is investigating serious and organised crime.
We are a covert investigative team.
For the first time across the UK, we have exclusive access to the investigations of Britain's most talented detectives.
We'll spend years putting together all of these tiny pieces of evidence.
The most bizarre investigation I've been involved in.
And share the methods and evidence that can bring these criminals to book.
Handguns coming in from the United States.
He had the drugs.
That is a lot of money.
A real who did it.
This time, a dangerous arsonist is on the loose in Bristol and CCTV is the only lead.
Me and Mandy were losing the will to live because we're searching for a figure and we're like, we've not got a clue where he is.
Greater Manchester Police take a huge risk in a bid to smash a cocaine smuggling operation.
We're just hoping that our suspicions were right and that there was some drugs and that we could justify all of this.
And a family commits shocking animal cruelty crimes in Cheshire.
Their dogs are their pets, their beloved pets, and yet then they're quite happy to see, in fact they want to see their face ripped off. Really difficult to understand.
Bristol is a big, multicultural place. You get such a mass, sort of like different offences. Locally, you'll get shop thefts, but then if you go somewhere else, there'll be more serious stabbings. It's a proper mix and match of communities and offences.
At 3:30 a.m. on the 13th of July 2021, just weeks before COVID lockdown was ending, Avon and Somerset Police received a call.
The job came in that there was a fire at SWX Nightclub. We had no idea, we just thought it was a fire at a nightclub.
In fact, it would prove to be the most intense month in PC Stevenson's 15-year career.
One of the actions was to review the CCTV from the camera which points down towards the nightclub, which showed a figure walking to the nightclub, leaning behind the barriers, and then walking away and walking out of shot.
There'd been no fatalities this time, but next time it might be different. So police put their best team together with the figure on CCTV being their only lead.
Mandy Claridge was a detective constable on the job. She was our CCTV guru, I suppose.
I started being a police officer in 2004. I started off on response, and then from response policing, I applied to become a detective. I like to try to find the whodunit. I really like that. I really like overturning evidence, and I'm nosy, so it always helps.
DC Claridge immediately began studying CCTV cameras located nearest SWX.
We started looking to see where the offender went afterwards. From what we knew from the scene, what route he had initially taken, we started to follow that route. We came to a dead end very quickly. We couldn't find any other way.
Whilst DC Claridge had hit a brick wall, PC Stevenson interviewed SWX staff and made an important discovery.
I asked a question to the general manager, Don Madden, and Don made some reference to anti-vaxxers. They had a note previously sent to them about opening under COVID rules.
Received 4 months earlier, officers got hold of the letter, hoping it might lead them to the arsonist.
It was in the club from March. Anyone could have touched it, any member of the staff could have touched it, and it was basically buried under a load of papers. So from a forensic point of view, could get anyone's fingerprints on it.
Police had a possible motive that had to be taken seriously. Bristol's venues were opening up amid rumours of vaccine passports, and lives could be at risk.
We all sat down. At that point, realised that this was a deliberate act in terms of a disagreement or an issue with clubs opening under COVID measures.
Police continued investigating, but getting the suspect before they struck again wasn't the only time constraint.
In order to watch the CCTV, you have 30 days. So the pressure's on in terms of getting that footage downloaded, starting to watch it.
By law, CCTV in public places needs to be kept 30 days before it's automatically wiped to make room on the drives, meaning the race was on.
Got to a point where we captured him on some private CCTV, and then we lose him.
Frustrated locating the suspect leaving the crime scene, DC Claridge made a decision that would change the course of the whole investigation.
I quickly recognised that we're not going to track him going forwards, because once somebody has committed a crime, they tend to run to try to distance themselves from the location, and it can be very hard to track someone as they're leaving. But tracking them going backwards, you know where they were heading.
Police worked on the premise that following the suspect's route to the club would lead them back to his home so he could be ID'd.
It's all about analysing where a person was in the beginning. So at 2:30 in the morning, they were here. So the next camera I'm going to look at, say in Castle Park, I know they're not going to be there at 2:30. But if I start from 2:30 and work backwards, then I know they're going to be there at some point, or not, as the case may be.
But with thousands of CCTV cameras in Bristol, trying to track the suspect was like finding a needle in a haystack.
We were like, I haven't got a clue where this bloke's come from. And then we just reviewed footage.
15 days in, and the team were no closer to catching their suspect. Then another letter was delivered to a pub in Bristol, which was compared with the first.
The handwriting was, well, I'm not a handwriting expert, but I could tell that it was probably written by the same guy.
A dangerous anti-vax vigilante was on the loose, and all Bristol's venues were targets. He needed to be caught quickly.
We're still at that point where you've got to look, where else could he have gone?
We reached points where we thought we're not going to find him, and we would nearly give up. And he walked past the camera. It was almost pitch black. He had like a whitish carrier bag, and I went, oh, there he is. Really quite shocked. From that, I was then able to get the next camera and the possible bits that he'd walked.
By now, there were less than 10 days until all the CCTV would be wiped. The team couldn't afford to lose him again.
We managed to then follow him to the cycle path. And then we got to the end of the cycle path and there was no more footage. It was like, there's no private stuff, there's nothing.
Me and Mandy were losing the will to live because we're searching for a figure and we're like, we've not got a clue where he is.
Almost 1 month after the SWX blaze, the suspect had disappeared again and a third letter was received, but this time to another club.
It was posted via Royal Mail and sent to them saying, if you open, under COVID measures, you'll end up the same as SWX.
The writing was the same. With lives at risk, the team had just days before the month was up, and they'd lose CCTV and their suspect forever.
What do we do? We're on a wing and a prayer here now. The sergeant said, why don't you just look at the camera by the 24-hour bus stop shop? So I was like, yeah, all right, then I'll watch that.
This was the team's last chance to crack the case.
You're watching this footage and you're like, oh, I'm so bored. Half an hour later, you haven't seen anything. And then all of a sudden, I see this person come into view. And I went, oh my God, that's him. That is actually our person. And he walks into the shop. And I was like, that's it, we got him. We can go into that shop, get the CCTV, and we've got an image of our suspect. I immediately let Dave know, because I was just so excited. The fact that this person had gone into the shop, oh my God, who's gone into the shop?
I don't even think we were on duty, so it was a quick email to the team. Could someone quickly nip up this shop and just get some footage? Because we think the guy that set fire to SWX has gone into that shop.
After 28 days of torturous tracking, the team were able to see their suspect clearly for the first time.
We watched what he did in the shop, and he actually bought box matches. So he's got the same bag with the same logo on it, wearing the same clothing, walking in the same way, and now he's bought box matches.
So we're like, oh my God, we've got a face.
Now they needed a name. A still from the shop was distributed to the local media, and within a few days, it paid dividends.
We had a couple of names come through from people that weren't really willing to provide statements, but they gave the name of Owen Marshall.
When you've worked on something and you've looked at that CCTV and you finally find out their name, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you've got the whodunit, you've found them.
The hunt to find Owen Marshall was on because Bristol was in danger.
We knock on his father's door. So you walk in, and all of a sudden this figure walks towards me in a kind of with a resigned look upon himself. And then I said, "All right, Owen." And I think he made references, "I think you've been looking for me, haven't you?" And like, yeah, we have, yeah. Do you want to come outside then? We arrest him, and it's very rare that you get a job in investigations that you start on day one and you end up nicking. Other people might say, nah, it happens all the time, but from my point of view, it doesn't happen. So we interviewed him. There was a prepared statement saying, I've got nothing to do with this, and then a 45-minute conversation of no comment, which is the way of it, really.
Owen Marshall was charged and the team began building their case. Then, a few days before the trial, they got some surprising news.
Out the blue, we had an email from the CPS, which said, from his defence team saying he's going to admit to these offences. So we knew there wouldn't be a trial, and we knew we had the right bloke at the end of it.
So with no trial, at the sentencing, Owen Marshall got 6 years for arson, reckless endangerment to life, and criminal damage.
It was really good to get a suspect, but it was also really sad because you saw the effect that it had on all these different people. There was the hairdressers underneath, which is their livelihood. There was the tattoo artist, that's their livelihood. And then there was his father. His dad was there in the court when he got sentenced.
There was that kind of like, I suppose that sense of, pride in what we did, because we got to remember all we had at day one was a figure with a hood on it. And it was just a lot of hard work, perseverance from everyone that got us to the point we did.
There are more than 1,700 known organised crime groups operating across the UK. And these OCGs are responsible for an illegal drugs trade worth an estimated £9.4 billion a year. When it comes to organised crime, Manchester in the northwest of England is one of Britain's worst affected cities.
I'm a detective inspector in the Serious Organised Crime Group, working for Greater Manchester Police. I've been running this team now for 2 years. It's a great job because we get to use tactics and resources that might not ordinarily be available to other police officers. Because Manchester's such a large area, quite densely populated, there are a number of crime groups across the city, and basically these crime groups make the lives of people a misery.
In 2018, Greater Manchester Police were focusing on one of the city's top-tier OCGs and came across two suspects who hadn't previously been on their radar.
We were working on an operation, looking at an organised crime group who were supplying Class A drugs across the Manchester area. We established that John Blake and Mark Holmes were key associates of this crime group, and we started to look at their activities and what they were involved in and the level of criminality they were committing. And at this stage, the case officer was Dave. He was the officer who was gathering the evidence and building the file.
Dave, whose identity needs to remain protected as he still works undercover, began by looking into Holmes and Blake's movements.
The investigation soon threw up that one of the suspects, Mark Holmes, was travelling abroad quite regularly. He was a HGV driver, but there was something that didn't sit right with his travel.
Telephone masts across the continent tracked Holmes's mobile phone signal.
Some of the cell site data we were getting back for him, we focused on his phone. The routes he was taking on the continent didn't really tally up with places he was making deliveries when he got back to the UK.
Despite having no proof of criminality, DI Smethurst took the calculated gamble of launching Operation Emu.
I've been in the police for 28 years, and there's some situations and some scenarios that you think this doesn't add up. Sometimes you just have to run with those suspicions and see where it takes you.
When Mark Holmes set off on another trip in his refrigerated HGV, detectives were immediately on his trail.
He left the country on Tuesday the 4th of September from Portsmouth to Bilbao.
We saw that he'd then driven down through Spain to the Gibraltar area, an area that's historically related to issues around drug importation and drug supply. And that started to raise alarm bells as to why he'd travelled down there. These were further enhanced really when his associate Blake flew out 2 days later from Liverpool Airport down to Malaga.
By now, Operation Emu had been running for over a week with a whole team working round the clock, based on nothing more than intuition.
We had no evidence at that point. We were monitoring them via their phone, cell sighting through Spain and through the continent. We're following a gut feeling.
Detectives continued tracking the pair's journey across Europe.
They went through France, of course, and then into Belgium, where they picked up a load of yoghurts. We're thinking this was a cover load should they get stopped by the police. So from Belgium, then they come through Calais and back to Dover.
The lorry was allowed to clear customs, and the team continued tracking it using Holmes and Blake's phone data.
We noticed that the lorry had stopped in the London area, and that gave us some concern because we didn't know what had gone on there.
If the drugs had been delivered, the entire operation was blown. DI Smethurst decided to act.
We sought the assistance of colleagues in Derbyshire Police to stop the lorry on our behalf. Ironically, was struggling mechanically, and they arrested them both on suspicion of being in possession of drugs, and were then able to seize the lorry in order to then undertake an examination of it.
Launched on a hunch, Operation Emu had resulted in almost a month of surveillance. It was vital it was a success.
Initial search of this vehicle, unfortunately we didn't find any drugs. What we did find, which immediately got our interest, was an Arsonist BQ handset, an encrypted mobile phone. In my experience, I've not come across anyone with one of these phones that's not involved in serious criminality.
It was a start, but the team needed to find drugs and fast, so the lorry was handed to the experts.
We don't search lorries with frequency, and the best people who search lorries and have experience with them are Border Force, because obviously they're well aware of the lengths that criminals will go to try and bring commodities or even people into the country.
We're just hoping that our suspicions were right and that there was some drugs and that we could justify all of this.
The following day, Holmes and Blake were interviewed.
Questions were asked of Blake around his travel patterns as to why he'd flown out to Malaga, and Blake came up with the story that he'd suffered relationship problems and decided to go and meet his friend out in Spain because he wanted to see what it would be like to be a lorry driver. A complete load of rubbish, but that was the story that he was presenting at that time. Holmes didn't really speak to us in any great way at all about what had gone on.
Whilst the suspects were being interviewed, Dave was in Dover searching the lorry with Border Force experts.
We're convinced that we're going to find something by this point, and we're convinced that these people have got this expertise. So when the search teams at Dover commence a search, and it's negative, they don't find anything. Of course, when we don't get that, we're gutted.
Unaware of the setback, DI Smethurst's interviews with the suspects became even more important.
What we were able to establish is why the lorry had then stopped in London for a short period of time, because we were able to then see from paperwork recovered in the lorry that the yoghurts had been delivered in the Hatfield area and had been dropped off there. So quite sophisticated really in terms of what they'd done and how they'd planned it. They'd tried to legitimise the journey by picking up a genuine load to have in the lorry, to look to customs and officials on the border as though there's a legitimate reason for them travelling to and from Europe.
Needing to prove that the month of surveillance wasn't for nothing, a new search team with fresh eyes took over.
Eventually, the second team were halfway through their search, and they find something suspicious. On the side of the HGV, there's a pallet store hung underneath the main trailer. On what would be the ceiling of this compartment, there was a cross member that had been fabricated, a hollow X shape that shouldn't have been on the truck. This was so well hidden in the depths of the underbelly of this truck.
The news of the discovery was immediately relayed to DI Smethurst.
Border Force had identified false panels on this hide, and when they'd taken those off, there were 20 kilograms of cocaine hidden within the lorry.
20 kilos is approximately £6 million worth of cocaine. It was looking like the punt had paid off.
It's unbelievable. We were elated. You know, we were really pleased. The fact that we'd found something and the DI had taken all these risks in getting us this far, and it was a great moment.
For such a period of time, you feel like you've taken a bit of a punt, and to know that your gut feeling and your instinct has been right and it's paid off is actually a massive adrenaline buzz and feels like a real success.
But the team weren't home and dry yet. One huge hurdle remained.
The problem we had then is it would be easy for Holmes or Blake to deny any responsibility, to say, well, that these have been in there for however long. At this point, we didn't know whether we were going to get any fingerprints or DNA.
Police had already held the lorry for a few days. They needed to put a plan together before the pair became suspicious.
Decided that we would actually give the lorry back to Blake and Holmes, obviously without the drugs in it, but with a view that we would try and gather some more evidence to show that they knew what was actually in the lorry.
To lay the trap and get the proof, they enlisted help from Greater Manchester Police's technical department.
The decision was made that we'll put equipment in the area underneath the compartment where the drugs were stored. This consisted of audio equipment and visual. So we had a camera and we had audio. Of course, this takes time.
But time was one luxury police didn't have, as Holmes began calling them about his lorry.
I'm not one to be having the piss taken out of me, so do me a favour, lad, yeah? Ring me up ASAP, because I need that wagon back, yeah?
The content of the phone calls were certainly of a man under a lot of pressure, wanting this truck back. He was quite abusive to the officer. He was 1 minute he'd be very calm, the next minute it'd go up like a bottle of pop.
UCIV's one of the name is, do us a favour, mate. Just have to read all day for me wagon back.
Having had the lorry for 10 days, police needed to make their move.
My best is just to get my wagon back, yeah. I say stop chatting. You're not even answering the phone.
With so much at stake, there was no way the Operation Emu team were going to take any chances.
Just in case anything went wrong with the technical equipment, we'd put something called smart grease within the compartment. It's grease that's uniquely identifiable.
Finally, 12 days after taking the lorry and 6 weeks after launching the operation, detectives put their plan into action.
We contacted Holmes and Blake and made arrangements for them to be able to come and pick their lorry up. It was a real sense of the unknown. There was an element of excitement to it because we knew that we'd got the drugs, but they didn't know that we'd got the drugs. And it was almost that element of conning them into believing that we hadn't found anything. Yeah, you can have your lorry back.
The exchange was made with Holmes and Blake. My colleague who'd been subject to abuse of him for the last week or so. Give him his keys back, obviously with a glint in his eye.
The two suspects drove their lorry straight to a business park in Merseyside.
It's always a tense time, but as soon as that vehicle was parked up, first thing he did was go straight to the underbelly of this truck and go straight to the secret compartment. So, it was good.
It was just a gut feeling, and then as soon as you start to see that actually, yeah, they're taking the panel off, then, you're tensing up and you're thinking, this is great.
Any more in there? Come on. Hold up. Joe. Yes.
Our staff here could see they had a front row seat, if you like.
Oh, lad. What? You been in it? Shut up. Yeah. Yeah, lads. Yeah. Yeah, well. Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's a real sort of, buzz, if you like, it's an adrenaline shot.
Joking, lads.
It then became clear that they then knew of the presence of this hide and they knew what was expected in there.
Armed with the proof they needed, officers swooped in for the arrest. With both suspects safely in custody, the damning video and audio wasn't the only evidence the police had.
So when they brought back to the police station, we put the infrared lights on him. If Holmes, he's absolutely covered in this forensic grease, if you like, because he's been under it. So that's that really with that. And then, of course, we start building the case.
In April 2019, the case against Mark Holmes and John Blake came to court in central Manchester. Faced with the overwhelming evidence against them, both suspects pleaded guilty. John Blake was sentenced to 13 years, and Mark Holmes received 17 years.
It's a good feeling, if you know you've stopped these 20 kilos of drugs coming into the streets of Manchester and the northwest. So that's a great feeling.
Considering the whole investigation was started on a hunch, Operation Emu was a remarkable success.
You get a gut feeling something isn't right. At times you have to work off instinct, and at times you have to take chances. And really, this operation, it was based on experience of knowing how the drugs industry works and how drugs are imported into the country. And all of those factors brought together, culminated in what, was a great result at the end of the day.
Badgers and their sets were protected by law in the UK in 1992, which had seen their numbers almost double since the 1980s. But recently, digging and badger baiting has become popular again, and in 2020, crimes against them rose by 36%. Badgers are now amongst the most persecuted species in Britain.
I joined the Metropolitan Police, did 12 years down in London, transferred about 7 years ago now, moved up to Cheshire and then saw the opportunity to specialise into the rural crime team. Some of the issues we have with wildlife crime are poaching, hare coursing, badger baiting and people just being cruel to wildlife.
In October 2020, Cheshire Police Rural Crime Team were alerted to an alarming private social media post.
This person contacted me with regards to a page where people have been boasting about possibly committing wildlife offences. When I did my initial investigation, I uncovered images and that to me sort of indicated that I'd probably need some specialist assistance really from the RSPCA Special Operations Unit. I was put in touch with Inspector Kirsty Widnall.
I've been an RSPCA inspector for 21 years and I've been within the Special Operations Unit for the last 6 years. I deal with dog fighting, puppy trade, any type of animal fighting or anything that's animals being cruelly treated.
The posts openly discussed the illegal activity of digging, where badgers are dug out of their sets and viciously attacked by dogs.
First offence we would have would be badger set interference, and that would be done using a shovel. The offender would dig down some considerable distances, then the dog would go into the set, either force the badger out so the badger's got nowhere else to go, or they'd force the badger into a corner in a set. Once the badger's been cornered in a set, the badger will want to defend itself, causing horrific injuries.
The dogs will often end up with what's called a degloving injury, where the bottom of their jaw is ripped off by the badger. Sometimes the dogs will die from the fight or the badger. Unfortunately, it's a sickening thing that people enjoy watching and want to see how tough their dog basically is.
Even more sickening was that the post wanted people to join the ringleader badger baiting to celebrate the release of his son from prison.
I thought it was a bit bizarre. That's the throwback to me not quite understanding why people commit the offences. I don't quite know. It's a strange request or strange offer.
Determined to bring these people to justice and hopefully bust an organised badger baiting ring, police launched Operation Cricket.
With the images that I had and the information and that copper's nose and that sort of investigative, that nosiness, really I wanted to pursue this.
The team knew that to prosecute these people they'd need more evidence, but getting a warrant wasn't going to be simple.
The original links were very short, just a hint that badger baiting was happening and you could tell that, but they weren't the full videos. So an expert looked at the badger set to show it was a badger set and you could just see the very head of the badger, so it was just a hint of what was happening.
Fortunately, it was enough to persuade the court to issue the warrants and the raid could go ahead.
On the 26th of October, the day that we executed the warrants, it was quite dark, wintry morning.
Taking no chances, PC Clark boosted their numbers with officers from Cheshire and Greater Manchester Police.
When we arrived at the address, I had a method of entry team from Cheshire Police. I was quite apprehensive of my professional reputation at stake. Within my own force, the RSPCA and Greater Manchester Police, I didn't want us to look foolish turning up.
There's always a bit of apprehension. You don't know what's going to happen when you get to the address. Are the dogs going to be aggressive? Are the people going to be aggressive? You have no idea what's going to happen until you go through the doors and see what's there.
Police! Police! Police!
I think our attendance wasn't expected, and when it was explained that it was for wildlife offences, there was slight apprehension and a bit of shock, really. I don't think people take it seriously. I don't think people take the fact that we take it seriously, and as a crime team, we'll investigate those to the same seriousness as a drugs team would investigate drug offences.
Once the location was secured, the RSPCA were brought in. What they found was disturbing.
As soon as we went into the back garden, into the kennels, it became apparent those dogs had been used for fighting. They've got the scars, the injuries. We knew straight away that these dogs had been used. It was evident immediately. The smell of some of the kennels was overpowering. Despite them being outdoor kennels, they're dirty and filthy. And it was obvious straight away that what those dogs had been used for. In my mind, those dogs had not been cared for. They'd not been shown the right attention or affection or care that they should have done. To leave your dogs with injuries like that is unacceptable.
All the dogs were immediately taken into RSPCA care and police continued collecting evidence.
Whilst in the property we found several mobile phones. They were seized as police exhibits. I was quite confident that they may contain more evidence.
At the same time, the ringleader's son was found in his bail hostel and his phone was also taken.
We parted company and then started the investigation and the examination of the mobile phones that we'd seized.
The phones were sent to a forensic company who unlocked them and recovered all their content and data. When the team got the results, they were stunned.
There was a number of videos showing badger baiting and fox hunting, as well as young children who can be heard in the background. It was absolutely sickening to see such young children, because some of them were really quite small, being shown that sort of cruelty and aggression. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
It beggars belief that you'd take a child to something like this. Apart from doing the offence itself, why would you take a child along? It just, you take the kids to the fair if you can, you take the kids for a walk in the park. You don't take kids to smash a badger over its head with a shovel. You don't take kids to that. You shouldn't do it as an adult, but you don't take kids to stuff like that.
Right from the off, the team had felt there was more than just 2 suspects. They were proved right.
Yes, go on, go over.
It became apparent on the videos there was a female present. She was very excited by what she was seeing, really encouraging it, very much involved and filming.
Oh, there it is, a pig in it. Is it?
Now the team had to identify the female voice.
Oh, so it's not having the dog then, is it?
No, the dog's trying to pull it off.
After further investigating, police discovered the female was the ringleader's son's partner, and they wasted no time arresting her.
I later interviewed her voluntarily at a police station. She showed absolutely no emotion at all, and she went no comment and stuck to no comment throughout the interview.
The team managed to retrieve all the data on her phone, and they continued to build their case.
Now, at this point of the investigation, we have evidence from 3 people's mobile phones. We have hard evidence in the way of some spades and sort of hardware.
With an incredibly low conviction rate for wildlife crimes, the team tried to make sure the case was watertight.
It took some time to go through the videos and evidence them and to listen to who was there, who was saying what, and to list all that. That takes some time.
After months of collating all their evidence, the case finally came to court.
For the trial, I was confident we had a very strong case. The evidence was overwhelming. However, when you go to court, strange things can happen and can never be 100% before court.
Fortunately, on February the 8th, 2022, all 3 suspects were found guilty of cruelty to animals and a host of wildlife offences.
I was elated with the successful prosecution from the RSPCA.
The son got the maximum of 26 weeks in prison, and the others received suspended sentences. All of them were also banned from keeping animals.
When the judge read out the sentencing, I was very pleased with the outcome. The main thing we want is for people to be disqualified from keeping animals, so this doesn't happen again.